What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of the AST Call-In Show. I am so excited to dive into these. Last week was incredible. The week before that was even better. And let me tell you, this week, I think has the potential to top it all. We have plenty of calls from all of our members. If you are not a member yet, make sure to do so by clicking the link in the description below or going to our memberships tab on our YouTube page. Again, members get to call into the AST call-in show. Leave your question for me to answer every Wednesday. I answer all of them, no matter how many voicemails we have. Plus, you can email me on a secure email. Leave your phone number, and well, I might give you a call and answer those questions. Appreciate every single one of you guys who called in, who have emailed, who have become members. And with that said, we will waste no more time. We're diving into it. Let's go.
Noah and Nick, love the show. This is
Thank
Chase
you.
Dreams. Just wanted to ask a question. If the defensive tackle class is so deep, why do we consider double dipping so early when our value needed for wide receiver is that much higher? I understand we could get a Steve Slayton. I understand we could get, maybe one of these other second or third round guys, but why wouldn't we get a character guy like a Buka in the first, then go hit Darius Alexander, and then maybe even a Jamari Caldwell at the end or in the middle of rounds from there, and maybe spice it up by getting, a good running back in the third? I don't know. Just a question. Love the show, guys. Appreciate you always.
I appreciate you, Chase. I get your point, and I welcome that. And to be honest with you, I agree with it. I think if Emeka Egbuka is on the board for the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21, then you go with Emeka Egbuka. It doesn't matter who else is on the board. He is a high character guy, like you said. He's also incredibly talented. I have been told by a number of people that in a really good wide receiver class, he is still near the top. That, yeah, he's not Malik Neighbors, but that's because he's going 21st in the NFL draft. Now, here's the thing. I do not really believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to get an opportunity to draft Emeka Egbuka. I think he's going to be gone by the time that the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the board. And because of that, I just don't know where you go next. Like, that's why double dipping at defensive line to me makes sense if Ibuka's gone, because you can get two guys that are probably first round value. And I get it, it's deep. Maybe you could get a steal, but these are surefire things, no questions asked. And you could go get two of them, secure your defensive line for the next 4 years and not have to worry about it anymore. Where wide receiver is awesome. But if you're taking a Matthew Golden at 21 because he's really fast, I mean, there's a chance that works out, but there's a chance it doesn't. And it's not as sure of a bet for the Steelers. So if Emeka Egbuka's on the board, he's my guy. He will remain my guy. I think he is the best value at 21 that's realistic for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But if he's gone, double dipping at defensive tackle in the first 4 rounds, if you get 1 and 4 and 1, maybe 3 or 4, I like that. I think that, you could get a first round talent that's an immediate starter and then a mid-round pick who can develop into a starter. And I just think that gives you your highest value at the position and at the pick. And while Emeka Egbuka would be or would top both of those, I don't think he's going to be available. That's my only pushback, because I don't think he's going to be there at 21.
Hello, Patrick Winyard here. I was wondering about how true the rumors are with Pittsburgh being interested in signing Nick Chubb. So could you offer any how valid that is?
Yes, sir. So there probably is some truth to the Nick Chubb stuff. I don't know why the Steelers wouldn't be interested in Nick Chubb. I mean, I get it. He's coming off of a major knee injury. He didn't have the greatest season last year. Because of it, he barely played. He's still Nick Chubb. Like, you could look at Nick Chubb as a guy that is a good option for any team. Like, he adds value to any team in the NFL, and the Steelers would be one of them. Now, I don't know if Nick Chubb is a realistic option for the Steelers once they start breaking things down. There's a difference between realistic and interested in. They are probably interested in Nick Chubb. Are they going to look at him as a guy that they have to go sign? No. Would they look at him as a pretty solid backup plan? Maybe. I don't know if they're ever going to get to the backup plan because Jaylen Warren is so easy to tender, and I don't think anybody's given up a second-round pick for Jaylen Warren. So because of that, I look at Nick Chubb and say the interest is real. The realistic shot that he gets to Pittsburgh, probably not so high.
Hey, Noah. Tony here. Just was wondering, did you look into Jaylen Warren, wide receiver? Jalen Royals, I'm sorry, a wide receiver. He looks pretty good. I'm not sure anything about him, if you've seen him or anything. The other thing is, as for the Ohio State running backs, I'm a big Ohio State fan. And between Hudson and Henderson and Jenkins, I would rather go with Henderson because he's got that home run capability, where Judkins to me seems more like a Jaylen Warren 2.0. Tell me what you think. Bye.
All right. So when it comes to the wide receiver, I'm not going to lie. Don't know much about him. So I'm not going to sit here and elaborate and say that I do and act like I have all this information to give you. Your research at this point is probably just as good as what I can give you right now. Now, when it comes to the running backs, I think Jaylen Warren's a great option. I'm not saying you're saying that he's not. That's definitely not what you mean. You obviously have a lot of respect for Jaylen Warren and the Steelers' backfield. I think Trey Henderson fits perfectly in there, like you said. He's a guy that you have two guys who could break it for 60 at any moment and can do everything. Can pass block, can catch the football, can run out of shotgun. It just makes a world of difference for the Steelers. He's also a great zone runner, Henderson is. So is Judkins, and I think both of them fit. I think Caleb Johnson is a great addition too. Any of those guys in the second round, I think, have first-round potential and could be immediate starters in the NFL. When I look at who the Steelers' favorite is, though, I believe it is Trey Henderson. That's everything I've been told, is that Trey Henderson is their guy, the name to watch if he's there. Now, I don't know if he's going to be. He might be gone well before the 52nd pick in the NFL draft. But if he's not, I mean, I don't know how you avoid him. No matter who's on the board, I don't know how you avoid him. He's drawing Jahmyr Gibbs comparisons. And because of that, you got to take a risk on the guy. You know, the floor is massive. The ceiling is ridiculous. And the Steelers need one of those guys, especially at running back for a team that wants to live and die off of running the football.
Hey, what's up? It's Maddie. So my question would be, what do you think of a QB room consisting of Justin Fields, Jalen Milroe, and then some free agent quarterback
Skylar
who has
Thompson.
the same skill sets as those two? It kind of reiterates having mobility in the quarterback room, and you're keeping the same consistent skill set, so you don't have to change anything up. Also, what do you think about a running back room of, let's see, Jaylen Warren, Trey Henderson, and then another free agent, or even another rookie? Also, sorry for last week when you called, I got pulled away, and I feel so bad, but I would love to talk again in person when you got time. Thanks so much. Have a good one, guys.
Maddie, appreciate you as always. Don't worry, you're on the list again. Making my way through them, and no worries whatsoever, ever. Trust me. If anybody knows what it's like to be busy, I know what it's like. Let's start with the quarterback room. Justin Fields, Jalen Milroe, Skylar Thompson, which is probably going to be the third. I like it. Again, it comes down to when. When can the Steelers draft somebody, which takes us to the running back room, because I like the running back room better. I like Jaylen Warren. I like Trey Henderson. And to be honest, go get a Dylan Sampson in the 5th round and double dip at running back. Have two guys that you can develop who have some serious upside, and then Jaylen Warren, who already has that upside available. I think that running back room is awesome. You could plug two of them back there as kick returners. You could feel pretty good about all three of them. You could put Sampson on the field when you're just looking to get him some reps in easy situations for some explosive runs. I'm a big fan of what that can be if I had to pick one of the two in the second round, I'm picking Trey Henderson because I have faith in Justin Fields. And Jalen Milroe is great, but I don't know what that upside is. And I take that back. I don't know the chances that he actually reaches the upside. I think the upside's pretty big. So because of that, you got to, take risk reward. And I think Trey Henderson doesn't come with much risk, comes with massive reward. I'd take him. I don't know if Jalen Milroe's making it to the third. If he does, I love that pick. Like I absolutely love the idea of Justin Fields, Jalen Milroe, and even Skylar Thompson. Like the third quarterback could be better, but chances are, Kyle Allen went 1 for 1 last season. Awesome. If that's all Skylar Thompson's got to do in a year, that's okay. We can make that happen. He's athletic enough to play Lamar Jackson, whoever the Browns quarterback could be, Joe Burrow, who has a little bit of movement to him when they play guys like this. He could be that scout team quarterback. So I'm all about it. I think both of those rooms would be great. Will it happen? I think it's much more likely for Henderson than it is Milroe, but you never know how the draft board's going to fall. And if Milroe doesn't go in the second, there might be teams sitting back going, we don't really want to touch this guy in the third. We'll wait it out. That's when the Steelers could strike.
Hey, Noah, it's your boy Grayson the Ginger once again. Man, it's Tuesday night. I about forgot to call in on the show again. I missed last week.
No worries.
But man, I'm watching the Lakers game right now, and Luka Doncic just hit 3 3-pointers in a row. And he's red hot right now, and I just can't help but think that this trade with the Lakers and Mavericks is the biggest fumble of all time. But, I know this is a football show, most notably for our Steelers, but what is the biggest fumble in Steelers history?
Okay.
Is there anything that can come to mind that's as close as this right now? Like what the Dallas Mavericks are going through, considering Kyrie got injured last night. And also, what would be something the Steelers can do now that would be equally as messed up as what the Mavericks did?
Okay.
Sorry, dude. I've been having some adult beverages, and I'm off work tomorrow, so I'm just rambling at this point. But
Hey,
I appreciate everything that you do, brother, and look forward to seeing this show tomorrow. Have a good one, man.
Grayson the Ginger, man, my one of my favorite calls every single week. I'm glad that you're enjoying your night before your day off, as you should be. And the Lakers game, Luka Doncic does look like an animal. Feel bad for the Mavericks. They are cursed. They are a cursed franchise. In Steelers history, what is the Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis trade equal to? Now, I'll say this. I was pro Mavs in the beginning of this. I looked at it and said, dude, Anthony Davis is good. Then he got hurt. And it was immediately like, okay, well, that was fun. It was good. I was totally wrong there. That is a great question, dude. That's a great question. I think I'd have to really sit down and dive through these and understand where the Steelers have really gone wrong. You could look at it in the other way, and the Steelers were 100% in recent years, the Steelers were 100% the LA Lakers in the Chase Claypool for essentially Joey Porter Jr. trade. And if you looked at it as face value for what it was, which was the 32nd pick in the draft, that looks even worse. In a loaded draft class, it looks so bad. What can they do right now? They were just urged by ESPN to trade TJ Watt for JJ McCarthy. And look it. I don't even have there is no explanation for you to even think about doing that, to even consider that as a possibility. What a guy who's coming off of a season-ending knee injury where he has never played an NFL game. And yeah, I get it. He'd be the first quarterback taken in this year's draft class, which means he'd be the first quarterback taken in a bad quarterback draft class. No, not for TJ Watt. You want to give up George Pickens for him? Sweet. Totally fine. You want to give up, I don't even think there's another name on the block. Isaac Seumalo? Totally fine. Sounds good. But TJ Watt, it's an irreplaceable piece of your team, much like Luka was, and you are not getting that back in JJ McCarthy. The upside's there, awesome. But, there is a hefty chance that does not work out for the Steelers now or long term. And TJ's still going to be TJ. TJ ain't changing. There ain't, TJ's got to change sides. Luka's got to lose weight. Doesn't matter. Still great. Still great. I think that would be a really good example. I think trading George Pickens for anything more than a second round or less than a second round pick falls into that category too, because you're just like, you're giving up a guy who's going to eventually be a top 7, maybe top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. And that's coming. You'd get rid of him because of the hassle, because of the baggage. What you'd get in return would never equal George Pickens ever. Sorry, doesn't matter. That would be up there too. But the TJ for JJ thing, I read that last night, laughed. I verbally laughed out loud, like to the point of like, wow, got to stop laughing. That's wild. What are we doing? I get it. Content's getting worse and worse. This one, I mean, that was bad. That was bad. Don't know the outcome of this Lakers game last night. Hope whoever you were rooting for won. I'm a LeBron guy, always been a LeBron guy. It's like my biggest character flaw. I hope the Lakers pulled that one off.
Hey, Noah. So before I ask my main question, I did have a bit of a note regarding my last week's question. I just wanted to clarify real quick. So as a refresher, I had to take that we should grab Aaron Rodgers if Justin Fields doesn't resign. And at the end of that question, I had said that I thought that going wrong could result in getting the ball rolling on Tomlin. And I just wanted to clarify what I meant by that. I think it came off as I expected us to fire him, if it went poorly, of course. And I fully agree with you that there's no way the Steelers would fire Mike Tomlin. No shot. But I am saying that I think it could sow the seeds of doubt about any future extensions and could possibly open the door for a trade if the offer was good enough. Do you think any of that is possible? Anyway, I don't remember your exact wording on this, but earlier this past week you had said something about the QB talent in colleges, and it got me wondering if, while in combination with other factors, NIL is playing any sort of role in, what this class looks like and how there's not really like any major star QB that seems like it's like a definitive hit.
Yeah.
You never work harder than when you're trying to put food on the table. And I think a lot of QBs who have been perceived as NFL level talent are already millionaires by the time they reach a draft. And you get a guy like Carson Beck, for example, who was projected to be the number 1 pick in the draft prior to last season. And even after a year this year that was overall underwhelming, he's still going to be making like $4 million on his NIL deal with Miami. Beck is a guy who is very talented but has also openly said some things that would make you think he doesn't really definitively love football. And, given the knowledge that we have of the dangers of the game, do you think that any of this could play in accordance with other factors, such as, the pocket passer and the changes being made in the game, like the depth of the pocket passer, I should say? And if so, how would you say it plays a role into players' decision making? In turn, do you think if talented QBs start thinking like that it would lower the standard of greatness?
Okay. All right. Let's start with the beginning. Some clarification there on the last one. Appreciate you clarifying. And I think I might still disagree with you. I hear what you're saying, though. I do think it opens the door. And I'm not in disagreement that it should open the door. Let's make that very clear. Like, I'm not somebody sitting around saying Tomlin should be here till he retires, whether he wins another playoff game or not. That is not what I'm saying. I do think that the Steelers have significantly less talent than they're winning. So in my eyes, like, the Steelers should not have won 10 games last season. They shouldn't have won 10 the year before. Like, they're just not that good of a football team right now. So they are definitely over succeeding. We'll say that. But also, it's on your head coach to be able to develop and put together talent. And I agree with that one too. Like, there hasn't been that great of development across the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, would it open the door? I don't think it would, to the next contract extension not happening. Now, maybe, but Art Rooney is a very, like, things would have to go. It would have to be more than a year. Let's say that. It'd have to be more than a year. A trade would never happen. Mike Tomlin has a no trade clause. He's not going anywhere else. He doesn't want to go anywhere else. The Steelers don't want to trade him. Like, that's not really on the table. It'd be fun. It's always going to be brought up. We're always going to have to talk about it, but I don't think realistically it would ever happen. When it comes to a contract possibly not being extended after 3 years, I do think that's a possibility. I do think that could happen, but it would have to be more than 1 year. You'd have to stink for 2 years at least. And that third year would have to be like, to be honest with you, it'd have to be 3 years. Like, the Steelers would have to be really bad right up until the time of the contract expiring. Because if they win 10 games the last year of his contract, that's enough money, or that's enough wins to say Tomlin's coming back for another 3 years. It was just a quarterback thing. There will always be an excuse. As for the quarterback stuff, the NIL stuff, I agree with it. I also think that there's the side of it of the NFL is changing. The football is changing, and quarterbacks are not the same quarterbacks that they used to be. There's the Sam Darnolds who are emerging and still going to get a shot. There are the Jared Goffs, but there are more Josh Allens and Lamar Jacksons and Kyler Murrays and all of those guys. And people have their eyes on those guys. Those guys are exciting. That's why Quinn Ewers, who is reliable, that's why Shedeur Sanders, to be very honest with you, that's Shedeur Sanders, because Shedeur Sanders is Jared Goff. Incredibly accurate, but doesn't really have anything else that pops. There's nothing else about him that you sit there and go, that guy's got that. He doesn't have the massive arm. He doesn't have the crazy athleticism. He's just very reliable and accurate. And maybe he takes too many sacks, but maybe the Colorado offensive line was really that bad. I don't know. I think it's a mixture of both. And that's not what excites teams anymore. They want an athletic, can do it all quarterback. That is where the game is developing. And these guys are transitioning, but you're less good if you're super athletic. We're running into, there are less good quarterbacks that are good at quarterback things because they're athletes who are better at being an athlete, but they also are good at quarterback, which in years past, those guys became wide receivers or corners or running backs or whatever. Now it's, I'm going to stay and I'm going to be a quarterback. That's what I'm going to do. And we're running into the point where those guys are getting jobs. They're taking away the jobs of those who are just pocket passers, who are just good at the quarterback things. And we're in a weird transition period. I think it'll sort itself out, but I think that has something to do with where we're at and why we have found ourselves in this like strange place. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But again, I think the game is changing. I also think NIL does play a role into it. But to be honest with you, like, that's on Carson Beck. You know what I mean? Like, that's on guys like that. He's not the only example, but he's the biggest example of a guy that you clearly see is like taking advantage of NIL, which is good for him. That's awesome. I'm glad that he's doing it. Pro player always. Go get your bag. But I also view it as you're going to get more of those guys, and those guys are never going to go high in the draft. And you're going to have to look for the guys who are truly competitive. There are still many of those out there. Many. We will never have a shortage of those guys. But I think it's a combination of both that is leading to where we are with the quarterback situation.
Hi, Noah. Jason calling back. I called a couple of weeks ago, and I got a little bit of bone to pick with you.
Okay.
I called to have you talk me off the ledge, and you did. You did. You did a great job. You talked me off the ledge.
Glad I could help.
That is until Friday. That Friday, 2 weeks ago. You just willy-nilly, without thought, without concern, threw it out there that the reason the Steelers may not use the center of the field is our head coach. The reason we don't use Pat, the reason Heath isn't going to the Hall of Fame, probably, is because of our head coach. Brother, this sent me into a tailspin. I had to call BetterHelp. I had to get counseling. I've been in counseling the past 2 weeks. That's why I wasn't able to call last week. My counselor said it wasn't a good idea. Wasn't a good idea. Maybe take a break. Maybe take a break. So just a little warning before you throw information out like that. Think of us. Think of us. Maybe give a little warning. Put it out there. Say, hey, sensitive ears. Maybe turn this off. Go to the other room for a couple of minutes.
You're right.
Huge help. Huge help. Counselor said it was okay to call today, so here I am. I'm back. My question now comes to the team. Would it be wise? I know this is a game of attrition now, and we need free agency. You know, we need all these things. Guys are getting hurt. But instead of every year patching a hole with another 1 year, $20 million, 31-year-old guy that's injury prone, that's getting hurt because he's older, it's later in his career, he's not going to be there for us in the playoffs, why don't we just draft? We just draft and just build up the D-line, build up the O-line, draft, the best available once we get past building from the inside out, and build a team, right? Where was it AB got drafted? I didn't even know about AB until he was drafted. 3rd or 6th round, was it? One of the best receivers to ever play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we draft? And again, I get it that we need to see what we have in Justin Fields if we're able to sign him. We need some weapons. We need to be competitive. And I understand that. But in the same token, if we're not a Super Bowl caliber, sorry, no, got cut off. As I was saying, if we're not a Super Bowl caliber team, would it make sense to build a team? We're not that far off. But then once we know what we have in a quarterback or don't have in a quarterback, then we can use free agency, for a 1 year to put us over the top. But we got to know what we have. And I understand again that we need some receivers to know what we have. Mm-hmm. In the same token, let's draft some young guys and let them play. Let's go play. Let's go balls out, go play. Let's go play some football. Draft some football players and let guys coach, and let's go see what we got. Let me know if I'm totally off the mark. I just would rather see build a team than to just fill a hole for a 1 year guy for $20, $22 million, $25 million for 1 year that's probably not going to make it to the playoffs anyway. Let me know what you think. Thanks. Bye.
First off, I'm glad you're good, man. I'm glad you're good. It was a tough day for everybody. And you know what? We should have disclaimers out there. Hey, go snag a beer. You're going to need it. It's just about 5 o'clock anyways. We're almost there. I hear you. It was tough time. Shout out Heath Miller, one of the nicest human beings ever. And I'm not going to lie to you. I love Pat. Like, Pat's a good dude, man. Pat's always been a good dude. I'm a big fan. When he signed his contract and people, like, there's a football side of it that you agreed with people who were against it. And then there's the human side of it that I'm like, I'm so glad that dude just got paid. Like, that guy deserved to get paid. That was awesome. I apologize, man. I'm glad you're doing good. When it comes to building through the draft, I agree 100%. I am very much so on the side of, if I was putting the Steelers together right now, which I know I'm not, but if I was, I would build everything. I would build the defensive line in a draft that is loaded with defensive linemen. I would build the running backs. I would build the wide receivers in a mixed match of Band-Aids and draft picks, because it's great to have draft picks, but wide receivers are expensive in a position that kind of kills the rest of your team. Look at the Cincinnati Bengals. So if you could get a Darius Slay for 13 million bucks, 14 million bucks, and develop Calvin Austins to cheaper deals and develop Roman Wilsons, and then maybe get another guy this year, great. If you could go get a Emeka Egbuka, I'm all for it. I think that's great too. But if he's not there, I'm not reaching for a wide receiver. When it comes to the rest of it, I think that Corey Trice could be a guy that develops, but I'm all about going to get Nate Hobbs as a piece that is only 25 years old, that you have his entire career left. Young pieces like that. You need some Band-Aids, but I'm all about the Patrick Queens, because Patrick Queen, in my eyes, when he's good, is Zach Bond. And that guy worked out really well for the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm okay with the Landon Roberts, because you need a thumper that's super cheap. I don't look at those guys as Band-Aids. I look at those guys as, and I'm not saying you do. I look at those guys as developmental pieces, important pieces that you need for the all-around structure of your team. When you look at the important stuff, the quarterback, again, the wide receiver, the offensive line, the defensive line, a lot of times safety, a lot of times corner. Yeah, you got to develop them. You have to go get them in the draft. You have to. That's what makes teams dominant, is when you look at them and they say, you have a Cam Hayward, and Alex Highsmith, and a TJ Watt, and a Nick Herbig, and a Keanu Benton. And if you could go get one more piece, you're there, man. Like, you're there. You've done it. On the offensive line, Zach Frazier, Troy Fautanu, Broderick Jones, Mason McCormick. Like, maybe it's not going to click right now, but if it does click, you did it. You made that happen. Your team is ready to roll. And then plug a quarterback in. And you hope that quarterback's Justin Fields. You hope that that's a lottery pick that's about to work out for you. But if it's not, you have the rest of your team around you to go figure out everything else. You know, Matthew Stafford coming to the Steelers doesn't make any sense right now. But if all these things click in a year, it makes a ton of sense. In a year, Aaron Rodgers is a guy that you're taking a shot on, but the upside really is there. Sam Darnold makes sense in Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh is built to win in a year. That's what you got to do. If you can develop those guys, if you could get the core of your team together through draft picks and develop them as rookies, then you've cracked it. That's the code of the NFL. That's the code to success in the NFL, and it will remain that way forever. If the Steelers, just like every other team, can develop their core, put some guys in there that, because you can't develop everything, not quick enough. You can't develop, if you have to go get an inside linebacker, go get an inside linebacker. If you have to go get a slot corner, go get a slot corner, or a safety, go get a safety, or I guess a wide receiver, go get a wide receiver. But your trenches have to be developed through the NFL draft. And as many other core pieces as you could get before it gets too late is the same way. And then you go find a quarterback. And I think it works. I think it's a recipe for success. The Steelers are just not at the part where they're ready to plug in a quarterback. Maybe Justin Fields works out, and in a year, the Steelers already have their quarterback. But I think that you have to continue to develop this, and they're close. They are. They put the pieces on the offensive line together. They're one, maybe two away from the defensive side of the football. Like, they're there. They've spent the time. They put the effort in. Now it's just about, is it going to work? When is it going to work? How quickly is it going to work? And when are you going to find your quarterback? That's what it comes down to. I agree. That is how you win Super Bowls. And to be honest, people are upset about the Steelers and the way they go about things. But I think that, I think they've put a lot of pieces together. It's just about being patient and having it work and hoping it does, because that's the biggest part of this. Not everything's guaranteed in the NFL. Again, I'm glad you're doing well, man. and shout out BetterHelp. They're awesome. They are awesome. So appreciate you.
Hey, Nick and Noah. My name is Hayes, and I'm coming at you from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yes, sir.
I just want to know your all's thoughts on this situation. I'm not a Mike Tomlin hater. I'm also not a fire Mike Tomlin guy. I have a lot of respect for Coach T. However, I just don't see us having another Super Bowl contending team until either he is gone or some major changes are made. You know, when I talk to all of my friends about this, they all tell me that I'm crazy, and the only reason that we get nearly as many wins as we do is because of Coach Tomlin. And while I do agree with the situation like 2 years ago with Mitch, Kenny, and Mason, that him pulling off 10-7 was very impressive, and that was due to good coaching. During that offseason, we made some necessary changes of firing Matt Canada, hiring on Arthur Smith. We then went and got Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, who are two much better quarterbacks than the one that we had before. And yet we finished out the season at 10-7 again. And to me, you know, all of that really does just boil down to a coaching issue. And it's like, even at the start of this offseason now, we have made no changes when it comes to the coaching position. You know, I still like having Arthur Smith on. I definitely think that we should give him another chance and see what he can do with our offense. But why would we keep TA on for another year? And I know realistically he is just Mike Tomlin's puppet, and really he's just there so Mike Tomlin can continue to run our defense. But we are just running these same predictable plays over and over again. I think that Tomlin's coaching style has, you know, started to be figured out, and things are moving on too fast. You know, especially like I said with this offseason, us making no changes, I just don't even see, even if we sign Justin Fields back for another year, we're looking at a ceiling of 10-7 again, especially with no changes being made in the coaching position. I just don't really have much faith in this team, and especially Tomlin right now, knowing that we're not making the necessary changes that we do need to make. And honestly, I don't see us, you know, being another Super Bowl contending team until either Tomlin decides to get off his high horse and hire on some proper coaches and sit back and let the coaches do their job, or, you know, we just ride this out until Coach Tomlin's tenure is up and then he moves on and we hire someone else on that can actually potentially do a job and get us back into a Super Bowl contending team. But like I said, I just want to know what your all's thoughts are on this situation, because after this off season that we've had right now, I just really don't have much faith in our Steelers going into next year, even if we do bring on another wide receiver that we get somewhere and, you know, re-sign Justin Fields. Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
All right, man. I appreciate you. I will say this, that I'm going to agree with some things you say. I'm going to disagree with some things that you say. I agree that Mike Tomlin's got to start giving more control to his coordinators. I think that's always been an issue, his biggest issue, and he doesn't hire well. But I do like some of the hires that are currently here. I really like Gerald Alexander. I really like Tom Arth. I like Zach Ghazzani, and he's got a great reputation in the NFL. And to be honest with you, he did good things with Calvin Austin and George Pickens last year. They both took steps forward. I like Alfredo Roberts. I think Pat Meyer is not the greatest at development, but I think he's fantastic when it comes to scouting and eyeing talent, which is going to help the Steelers piece this thing together. Like, he was the reason that they went out and got Zach. Like, you had to go get Zach Frazier. Had to happen. That was Pat Meyer. I don't agree with firing TA, only because it makes zero difference. And I think that TA is very intelligent and is very good at helping players develop. Like, he's very, very good at that. Look at the guys who have been here. You know, look at Beanie Bishop last year. Look at Joey Porter Jr. making an immediate jump. Dante Jackson had success in his first season in Pittsburgh. He's helped Nick Herbig. Like, he's a good coach, but he has no control of that defense. He has no control of what's going on. He is the scapegoat, and firing the scapegoat means, nothing. You're just gonna get mad at the next guy. That's all you're gonna do, is get mad at the next guy. Tomlin obviously should give up some power there. He's not going to, so I agree with you. But firing TA isn't the answer. It's Mike Tomlin giving up some of that power. And honestly, maybe TA is a great defensive coordinator. We just have no idea because, well, he's never been a defensive coordinator. When it comes to the talent level and stuff from year to year, that's the part that, to me, the Steelers were not a playoff team in 2024. They just weren't. Like, their offensive line by the end of the year was beat to hell. Like, you're telling me Mason McCormick, Spencer Anderson, a bad Broderick Jones, by the end of it, a bad Dan Moore, Zach Frazier, like, that was supposed to get you where you were supposed to go in the AFC? No. And that's where it starts, is the trenches. You looked at the secondary, and Dante Jackson was so hurt by the end of the season that James Pierre and Corey Trice were starting, and I'm sorry, but that wasn't it. Beanie Bishop, you could say whatever you want. He shouldn't have been on the field his entire rookie year. He should have been developing with a much minor role, but he was put in there, and then Cam Sutton came in and did worse somehow. So I just don't think the talent was there at all. You were rocking with you essentially had one wide receiver in Calvin Austin. You George Pickens and Calvin Austin. That was it. That was your receiving core. It just wasn't built And Russ started, but the back half of the season, but Russ had no time to get any chemistry with any of these guys, to develop an offense around him. So I think that the chess pieces were really bad last year, worse than the year before, to be honest with you. I think the receiving core was better the year before. I think the offensive line was better to a degree, maybe outside of Mason Cole the year before. I liked who the Steelers were the year before outside of injuries. Injuries happened to kill them. But I'm not, the past 2-3 years, I'm not putting on Mike Tomlin. It's everything before that. Everything before that, the Steelers should have been better. Maybe outside of Ben's final 2 seasons because of the offensive line. Like everything else, the Steelers are at a place where they're a good team, contending team. The last 2 seasons, they're nowhere close. They're not. They just don't have the talent to do it. And they are easily out succeeding their talent level. Easy. And that's, unfortunately, winning is a fault in this one. It's a bad thing to do. But I look at it and say, Tomlin, if you're gonna bag on Tomlin, don't look at it and say a new coach is going to win a Super Bowl with this team, because they're not. They're winning 6 games. That's what they're going to do. And maybe that puts the Steelers in a better position long term. That's an argument to be had. But no coach is winning more games than Mike Tomlin is with the current roster that he has. I also don't look at it and say it's coaching's fault either. I think it's just I don't think the talent is there. And I think the Steelers are building that talent. I think the Steelers are 2 years away from being a team that actually has like a real shot at a run, because they've put the talent together. If this was a rebuild and they looked really, really bad in the process, people would be all over how bad they look. The Steelers are a really bad team that is winning games. That's what they are. And because of that, I'm not going to say I'm giving Tomlin credit. I'm just not looking at it and saying the Steelers are not succeeding to their talent level. The Steelers are a team that should be picking in the top 15 that made it to the playoffs for the last 2 years and 3 years, if we're going to be honest. And that's like, really, that's who they are. They are a rebuild team that is near the end of the rebuild, but they have been a rebuild team the last 3 years, and they've just won too many games. So they're not under succeeding. By no means are they under succeeding. All right. With that said, guys, that's everything I got today. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of the AST Call-In Show. These things are awesome. I can't thank you enough. The energy that you guys bring every single Wednesday morning is incredible. I'm so excited for this, and I'm so excited to keep it moving. Thank you to all of our members. If you're not a member, hit that link in the description below and become one. Make sure to email me. I'm still making those phone calls. And shout out my girl, Maddie. You're definitely on the list once again, so don't worry. I'm coming back. With that said, guys, make sure to check out our show tonight on youtube.com/allsteelerstalk. Check out the podcast anywhere you get your podcast. We are really pushing the audio downloads. So go to that Apple podcast, hit the download button, and give us a 5-star review. We can't thank you enough if you're able to do that. Find all of our written work at si.com/NFL/Steelers, and we will be back later. Enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.